Hello and welcome to day 68 in the Not Alone Today Chronological Bible Reading Plan with Joseph and Anu. Today we are in Joshua chapters 18 through 21 and we are still in the God's Word translation for this week.
Chapter 18. The whole congregation of Israel gathered at Shiloh and set up tents of meeting there. The land was under their control.
There were still 7 tribes in Israel who had not yet received any land as their inheritance. So Joshua asked the Israelites, "How long are you going to waste time conquering the land which the Lord God of your ancestors has given you? Choose 3 men from each tribe and I will send them out. They will survey the land and write a description of it which shows the borders of their inheritance. Then they will come back to me. They will divide the land into 7 parts. Judah will stay within its territory in the south, and Joseph's descendants will stay within their territory in the north. You must describe the 7 parts of the land and report to me here. I will draw lots for you here in the presence of the Lord our God. The Levi's tribe has no separate region among you because their inheritance is to serve the Lord as priests. The tribes of Gad and Reuben and half of the tribe of Manasseh have received the inheritance that the Lord's servant Moses gave them on the east side of the Jordan River."
As the men got ready to go, Joshua ordered them to write a description of the land. He said, "Go survey the land, write a description of it, and return to me. Then I will draw lots for you in the presence of the Lord, here in Shiloh."
The men surveyed the land. They described it in a book. The land was divided into 7 parts according to its cities. Then they returned to Joshua at the camp at Shiloh. So Joshua drew lots for them in the presence of the Lord in Shiloh. There, Joshua divided the land among the tribes of Israel.
The lot was drawn for the families of the tribe of Benjamin. Their territory lies between Judah's and Joseph's. Their northern border starts at the Jordan, goes up to the slope north of Jericho, west through the mountains, and ends at the desert of Beth Aven. From there, the border goes to the south slope of Luz, now called Bethel. Then the border goes down to Ataroth Adar, over the mountains south of Lower Beth Horon. The border turns and goes round on the west side, south of the mountain that faces Beth Horon, and ends at Kiriath Baal, now called Kiriath Jearim, a city of Judah. The southern border begins just outside Kiriath Jearim and goes west to the springs of Nephtoah. Then the border descends to the foot of the mountain that overlooks the valley of Ben Hinnom, in the north end of the valley of Raphaim. It descends to the valley of Hinnom, to the south slope of the city of Jebus, and down to En Rogel. Then it turns north and goes to En Shemesh, and from there to the region opposite Adumim Pass. It descends to the rock of Boan, son of Reuben. Then it continues onto the north side of the slope facing the plains and down into the plains. The border continues to the north slope of Beth Ogla and ends at the northern bay of the Dead Sea at the south end of the Jordan River. This is its southern border. The Jordan River is its eastern border. These are the borders surrounding the inheritance given to Benjamin for its family.
These are the 12 cities with their villages that belong to the tribe of Benjamin for its families: Jericho, Beth Ogla, Emek Keziz, Beth Araba, Zemaraim, Bethel, Avim, Para, Ophrah, Chephar Ammoni, Ophni, and Geba. There were 14 other cities with their villages: Gibeon, Ramah, Beeroth, Mizpeh, Chephirah, Moza, Rechem, Irpeel, Tarala, Zela, Eleph, Jebus, now called Jerusalem, Gibeath, and Kiriath. This is Benjamin's inheritance for its families.
Chapter 19. The second lot was drawn for the families of the tribe of Simeon. Their inheritance was within Judah. In their inheritance, they received 13 cities and their villages: Beersheba, Sheba, Molada, Hazar Shual, Bala, Ezem, El Tolad, Bethuel, Homar, Ziklag, Beth Marcaboth, Hazar-Susa, Beth-Labaoth, and Sharuhen. There were 4 other cities with their villages: Ain, Rimmon, Ether, and Ashan. All the villages around these cities, as far as Baalath-Beer and Ramath-Negev, were also included. This is the inheritance of the tribe of Simeon for its families. Simeon's inheritance was part of Judah's because Judah had more land than it needed. So Simeon received its inheritance inside Judah's borders.
The third lot was drawn for the families descended from Zebulun. The border of their inheritance goes as far as Sarid. Toward the west, the border ascends to Marala and touches Dabeshet and the river near Jokneam. But from Sarid, it turns directly east toward the border of Chisloth Tabor, on to Daberath, and then ascends towards Japhia. From there, it goes directly east to Gath Ephar, Eth Kazin, and Rimmon, where it turns to Nia. There, the border turns north to Anathon, and hence at the valley of Iftahel. This also includes Kathath, Nahalal, Shimron, Idala, and Bethlehem. There were 12 cities with their villages. These cities with their villages are the inheritance given to the families descended from Zebulun.
The fourth lot was drawn for the families descended from Issachar. Their territory included Jezreel, Shesuloth, Shunem, Aphaphraim, Shion, Anahatrath, Rabith, Kishion, Ebez, Remeth, En-Ganim, En-Hadar, and Beth-Pazes. The border touches Tabor, Shahazimah, and Beth-Shemesh, and ends at the Jordan River. There were 16 cities with their villages. These cities with their villages are the inheritance for the families of the tribe of Issachar.
The fifth lot was drawn for the families of the tribe of Asher. Their territory included Elkath, Hali, Beten, Akshaph, Alamelech, Amad, and Mishal. The border touches Carmel and Sheol Libnath in the west. Then it turns east to Beth Dagon and touches Zebulun and the valley of Iftahel in the north, and goes to Beth Emek and Neil. From there it goes northward to Kabul, Abdon, Rehob, Hammon, Cana, and as far as Great Sidon. Then it turns at Ramah and goes on to the fortified city of Tyre. The border then turns to Osa and hence at the Mediterranean Sea. The territory includes Meheleb, Aksib, Uma, Akko, Afek, and Rehob. There were 22 cities with their villages. These cities with their villages are the inheritance for the families of the tribe of Asher.
The sixth lot was drawn for the families descended from the tribe of Naphtali. Their border starts from Eleph at the oak tree at Zananim. It continues to Adami, Nekeb, Jabneel, to Lakum, and ends at the Jordan River. The border turns west to Asnoth Tabor, and from there to Hukuk. It touches Zebulun in the south, Asher in the west, and Judah in the east at the Jordan. The fortified cities were Zidem, Zer, Amath, Raketh, Shinereth, Adamah, Ramah, Hazor, Kedesh, Edrei, En-Hazor, Yiron, Migdal El, Horem, Beth Anath, and Beth Shemeth. There were 19 cities with their villages. These cities with their villages are the inheritance for the families of the tribe of Naphtali.
The seventh lot was drawn from the families of the tribe of Dan. The territory of their inheritance included Zorah Eshtaol, Hir Shemesh, Shalabin, Haijalon, Hithla, Helon, Timnah, Ekron, Elteke, Gibbethon, Baalath, Jehud, Bene-Berak, Gat-Rimmon, Mi-Jakorn, and Rakon, with the border passing in front of Joppa. The border of Dan extended beyond them. Dan's descendants went up and attacked Leshem, captured it, and killed everyone there. They took it, settled there, and renamed the city Dan after their ancestor Dan. These cities with their villages are the inheritance for the families of the tribe of Dan.
When they had all finally received the land they were to inherit, the people of Israel also gave land within their territory as an inheritance to Joshua, son of Nun. They gave him the city he asked for, as the Lord had instructed them to do. It was Timnath-Serah in the mountains of Ephraim. He rebuilt the city and lived there.
This is the land that the tribes of Israel drew by lot. The priest Eleazar, Joshua son of Nun, and the leaders of the families divided the land by drawing lots. They did this in Shiloh in the presence of the Lord at the entrance of the tent of meeting. So they finished dividing the land.
Chapter 20. The Lord said to Joshua, "Tell the people of Israel, now choose for yourselves the cities of refuge about which I spoke to you through Moses. Choose them so that anyone who unintentionally kills someone may run to them. There will be a place of refuge from any relative who can avenge the death.
A person who kills someone accidentally can run to one of these cities. There he will stand at the entrance to the city where court is held and present his case to the leaders of that city. Then they will take him into their city and give him a place to live with them.
If the relative who can avenge the death pursues him, the leaders must not hand him over to the relative, because they didn't intend to kill the other person. He didn't even hate the person he killed. The accused person may remain in that city until he can stand trial in front of the congregation, or until whoever is chief priest at that time dies. Then he may go back to his home in the city from which he ran away.
Kadesh in Galilee in the mountains of Naphtali, Shechem in the mountains of Ephraim, and Kiriath Arba, now called Hebron, in the mountains of Judah, were chosen as cities of refuge. Bezer on the desert plateau from the tribe of Reuben, Ramoth in Gilead from the tribe of Gad, and Golan in Bashan from the tribe of Manasseh were chosen as cities of refuge on the east side of the Jordan River, east of Jericho.
These are the cities chosen as cities of refuge for all Israelites, including the foreigners living among them. Anyone who accidentally kills someone may escape to these cities. Then he will not be handed over to the relative who can avenge a death before he stands trial in the front of the congregation.
Chapter 21. Then the leaders of the families of Levi came to the priest Eleazar, to Joshua son of Nun, and to the leaders of the families of the other Israelite tribes at Shiloh in Canaan. They said to them, "The Lord commanded through Moses that we should receive cities to live in and pasture lands for our livestock." So as the Lord had instructed, Levi's descendants were given the following cities with pasture lands from the Israelites' inheritance.
These are the cities for the families of Kohath that were chosen by drawing lots. These descendants of the priest Aaron the Levite received 13 cities from the tribes of Judah, Simeon, and Benjamin. The rest of Kohath's descendants received 10 cities from the families of the tribes of Ephraim and Dan, and half of the tribe of Manasseh.
Gershon's descendants received 13 cities from the families of the tribes of Issachar, Asher, Naphtali, and half of the tribe of Manasseh in Bashan.
Merari's descendants received 12 cities for their families from the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and Zebulun. The Israelites gave these cities with pasture lands to Levi's descendants by drawing lots, as the Lord had commanded through Moses.
These are the names of the cities from the tribes of Judah and Simeon that they gave Aaron's descendants who were from the families of Kohath in the tribe of Levi. Their lot was the first one drawn. They gave them Kiriath Arba. Arba was Anak's father, as the pasture land around it. This is the city of Hebron, located in the mountains of Judah. But they gave its fields and villages to Caleb, son of Jephunneh, as his possession. So they gave the following cities with pasture lands to the descendants of Aaron the priest. The 9 cities from those 2 tribes were Hebron, a city of refuge for murderers, Libnah, Jatir, Eshtemoa, Holon, Debir, Ain, Juttah, and Beth Shemesh. The tribe of Benjamin also gave them 4 cities, Gibeon, Geba, Anathoth, and Halmon. In all, 13 cities with pasture lands were given to the priests, the descendants of Aaron.
Cities were chosen by lot from the tribe of Ephraim to give to the rest of Levi's descendants, who were from the families of Kohath. These 4 cities with pasture lands were Shechem, a city of refuge for murderers, in the mountains of Ephraim, Gezer, Kibzaim, and Beth Horon. The tribe of Dan gave them 4 cities, Eltekeh, Gibbethon, Aijalon, and Gath-Rimmon. Half of the tribe of Manasseh gave the 2 cities with pasture lands, Tanakh and Gath-Rimmon. In all, 10 cities with pasture lands were given to the rest of the families of Kohath.
They gave the families of Gershon's descendants who were in the tribe of Levi 2 cities with pasture lands from half of the tribe of Manasseh, Golan in Bashan, a city of refuge for murderers, and Ashtaroth. 4 cities with pasture lands were also given to them from the tribe of Issachar, at Kishon, Daberath, Jarmuth, and En-Ganim. Another 4 cities with pasture lands were given to them from the tribe of Asher, Mishal, Abdon, Elkath, and Rehob. Also 3 cities with pasture lands were given to them from the tribe of Naphtali, Kadesh in Galilee, a city of refuge for murderers, Amoth, Dor, and Kartan. In all, 13 cities with pasture lands were given to Gershon's families.
To the families of Merari, who were from the tribe of Levi, the tribe of Zebulun gave 4 cities with pasture lands, Jokneam, Karta, Dinan, Dimnah, and Nahalal. The tribe of Reuben gave them 4 cities with pasture lands, Bezer, Jahaz, Kedemoth, and Mephath. The tribe of Gad also gave them 4 cities with pasture lands, Ramoth in Gilead, a city of refuge for murderers, Mahanaim, Eshbon, and Jazer. All these cities belonged to the families of Merari. They were the last of the families of Levi. These 12 cities were chosen by lot.
Within the territory owned by the Israelites, there were 48 cities in all for Levi's descendants. Each of these cities had its own pasture land around it.
So the Lord gave Israel the whole land he had sworn to give their ancestors. They took possession of it and settled there. The Lord allowed them to have peace on every side, as he had sworn with an oath to their ancestors. Not one of their enemies stood up to them. The Lord handed all their enemies over to them. Every single good promise that the Lord had given the nation of Israel came true. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. Just a quick recap for what we've read today. We began at Joshua 18. In chapter 18, we started seeing the second stage of dividing the land. The remaining 7 tribes that had not yet received their land were urged to go on and map the entire land, divided into 7 places, and then they will cast lots to see which belongs to who. And then in the latter half of that chapter, we saw the land allocated to Benjamin. Then in chapter 9, we saw the land allocated to the other 6 tribes: Simeon, Zebulun, Issachar, Asher, Naphtali, and Dan. And then the chapter concludes with the land that was also given to Joshua specifically. In chapter 20, we saw the 6 cities of refuge that were allocated for the purposes for which God has instructed for cities of refuge to be built. And then in chapter 21, we saw the cities that were given to Levi while they did not have a specific allocation in the land distribution. Other tribes gave or donated lands to the various sub-tribes within the tribe of Levi. So to the Kohathites, the Merarites, the Gershonites, in all their numbers. Yeah, and that's it for chapter 21. So let's go back to chapter 18 and see what stood out to us. What stood out to you in chapter 18, Anu?
What stood out to me in this chapter, and in reference to the chapters we've read before and the preceding ones up until 20, is how that, if we remember, God said he would give the Israelites a land flowing with milk and honey, as their inheritance. But when they got to this inheritance, there was also another part that they had to fulfill. They had to take possession of it. So even though for 40 years they've been expecting this inheritance, they knew that as they're getting there, it's not just going to be given to them. They had to take possession of it. And that stood out to me in the sense that when we're reading the Psalms and we're reading how that the Lord is my inheritance, the Lord is my portion, the claim is not the end of it. There's also the possession, the taking possession of it, meaning that faith without action is dead.
Indeed.
If we can sit and proclaim what we think is ours, but we need to step out in faith to also take possession of it. How that, if you remember in chapter 17, where the descendants of Joseph were saying that they needed more land, more region, because their people were much more than the land given to them. And Joshua charged them to take possession of the region possessed by the Canaanites, and that they can conquer it. Again, it's coming to us as Christians as an instruction in that we need to take possession of these promises that we have from God. Yes, we have an inheritance. We have an inheritance of good health. But that does not mean that we then put bad things into our bodies, bad foods, and then expect good health. We have an inheritance that our children will be mighty in the land. But we also have the responsibility to take possession of that promise in the reality of our parenting. Regarding our marriage, we have an inheritance that our marriage will be sweet. I'm not sure that's the exact Bible verse or promise, but in paraphrase, now we'll have good marriages with new wines. But yeah, we also have to work that out in awe and in honor of God's will. That's what stood out to me.
That's brilliant. There is a beggarly mindset that, one can easily slide into. Again, I'm speaking as an African, as an immigrant. One way to think of life is to think of, just expecting handouts and expecting things to be given to us. Another way to think of life in light of, the promises of God is indeed to possess your possessions. And sometimes that would look like getting your hands dirty. That would look like folding your sleeves and going to clear a forest, as Joshua said to the people of the tribe of Joseph when they were saying, this is too small for us. And it's like, the mountain regions are there for you. Of course, you would have to go and clear out the forest and drive out the Canaanites there. But yes, that's part of what that looks like. He has promised them a land flowing with milk and honey. So far, we have not seen a river called honey. We've not seen a river called milk. And we have not heard that actually there is a street where milk is literally flowing. But that doesn't mean that metaphor is not correct. It is very much a land. In fact, the conclusion of our reading today, the last verse of chapter 21, tells us that every single good promise that the Lord had given the nation of Israel came true, which tells us that indeed, here they are in the promised land, the land flowing with milk and honey, but they had to do that, put in the work and do that bit for them. Okay. Is there any other thing that stood out to you from any of the other chapters? It's more or less the allocation of the lands that were there, but did anything stand out to you?
In chapter 20, I like the 6 cities of refuge. And a part of me just wondered, how I've loved. I like the law. Maybe I'm more.
It goes without saying.
But I'm even predisposed to mercy. To opportunities for a person to clarify their points. So whenever I read about this city of refuge, there's just this comfort he brings. How that God would carve out a niche for people that unintentionally kills another person. So much that they can actually return back to their hometown and continue without being hurt. I know for the family of the person who died, It might be a bit hurtful, but in my view, if it's unintentional, you can't drag it, you can't draw it out too long than just what it said. If it's hurting the other family, God has made provision that there will be a trial and where evidence will be tested. And that if there's no trial, then the person would will wait in the city of refuge until the chief priest dies. That all on its own just brings me comfort that both parties get a respite. And then one of the things that stood out to me in chapter 19 was, as I was reading it, I pictured the fresh start, just imagining myself after being enslaved somewhere for years, now being given a new city, a new village to start with my tribe, with my clan. The way they would have cleaned the house, swept the floor, the way the women would be singing, making food, bringing their mortars out, their tambourines. The reading of chapter 19 brought joy to me. It just brought this celebratory victory, like a newness, a fresh start. I can imagine it because I've moved us quite a few times. When you just move to a new house, how that you have a vision for each room, how you want it to be, how you would be hunting for sofas. Just imagine you being given a new village, a new city. And I like how the tribe of Dan renamed theirs to Dan. I feel like, yes, that is ownership. Yeah, so that's just me and the things that stood out to me in the chapters we've read.
Indeed. There's a curious detail that was given about the tribe of Dan in chapter 20, chapter 19 rather, verse 47. After listing all the territories that was given to them by lot, then verse 47 says the border of Dan extended beyond them, beyond these things that they got as their proper allotted space, so to speak. It says Dan's descendants went up and attacked Leshem, captured it and killed everyone there. They took it, settled there, and renamed the city Dan after their ancestor Dan. Almost as though to say, even beyond what they've got, there is room for more, as long as, again, they are willing to go ahead and possess it, because it's just up for grabs for them, and they went and claimed it. And in this case, they literally fulfilled what God, the modus operandi of killing everyone there, and then of course settling there. And actually that became more or less their base, because that's what was renamed Dan after their dad. So again, just highlighting possibilities that are available to us to possess our possession when we indeed, embrace that mindset of, yes, we have this inheritance, but we want to actually fully appropriate it and make it ours in every sense of the word. That's a good point to wrap it up. Verse 45 gives us a very good wrap up for this day's reading. Every single good promise that the Lord had given the nation of Israel came true. I mean, there's a part of me that asks, is there a bad promise? But they're all promises of God and they're all good. But every promise God gave them, He had kept. And indeed, He remains trustworthy like that. We turn the page on day 69. We continue the story. We turn the page on day 69. We hope you continue to listen. Actually, we got a feedback from one of you listeners, Praise, who was sharing about how this is the first time she's actually journeying through the Bible in its entirety in this format. Like, she's never even considered the idea of, maybe I could do this via a podcast, and we're glad that we get to be a part of that journey. She was specifically reflecting on day 57, our reflections on day 57, especially around the issues of, diviners and foretellers, and how we tied that to AI on the one hand, and then to the issue of fear being what is foretelling the future for us rather than God and what God has said. So yeah, it's very interesting to get feedbacks like that. Feel free to reach out if you do have a feedback as well, or if you do have a comment to share, or any suggestions for improvements. So we are open to your feedback, and we look forward to hearing or reading from you as the case may be. We turn the page tomorrow on day 69. Till then, just remember,
you're not alone
today.
God bless you.